But I'm doing a show tomorrow, and one of the guys that does something on the show is a friend of mine, Daryl Scott, and he's just articulating something because we're all still stunned and kind of figuring out what's happening. But Daryl goes back to an important point, and he articulates it with the raging passion that I wish I could communicate as well as him. And so here's what he says, and I just want you to remember this. We had an election, what I'm convinced was an election debate, and we had dueling electors going up to Washington. And like people say, I'll answer this, that I was there on January 6th. Everybody else is denying they were there. I was there, my friend. I was there. I had a front row seat to what was happening. I was invested. I was invested in the other rallies that were in Washington. I was invested in Donald Trump 100% and still am, and am part of what's happening. Let's just say what's coming next. I'm in what's coming next. So I'm not talking like I'm in the bleachers. I'm there. So it's important I give you perspective, because we have to grow up and get our heads in the real game. We can't just go, well, I'm confused. We have to stop being confused. Stop being children tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine, by every voice, because I don't want you groping around with the wrong information saying this is going to happen. That's because it's adolescent. It's time for us to grow up. We have a cunning occult power that got in front of us on January 6th. What happened there? I'm saying it should not have happened. That day was the day when the Senate was supposed to debate the evidence. We had evidence that had to get out there. And what happened was a revelation to us of something. It was a revelation. Not a single spiritual leader saw the danger of what was going to take place. I'm not even going to go down the road and get knocked off of social media. So you can't even say what you want to say. That's why I have to have my own news site. But I'm going to tell you this. What took place on that January 6th was not what the Democrats are calling the mob. That was not a mob. That was a matter of fact, I won't go down that road. The break-in took place before Donald Trump finished talking. So this whole impeachment thing is a continuation of the power brokers in Washington desperate to get rid of Donald Trump because they want to annihilate his ability to come back in 4 years. They want to take him out so fully that they will even persecute you if you are a Christian. This is what John Brennan, the modern day Haman, is advising the administration to go after religious groups and label them as domestic terrorists. And this is all right. It's exactly what I said would happen in here if Trump didn't win. A lot of you guys just didn't read the book, or you were mistaking my warfare for a fair election and for his victory as being, we already covered that there would be a Billy Graham prophecy. I gave it to you. And the Billy Graham prophecy is when he died, it was in the Feast of Purim. And it was in the Feast of Purim because Feast of Purim is a prophetic statement that the era of Billy Graham favor with evangelicals in Washington was going to have an end, and a shift would happen, and we would start to find the government becoming an adversary to our existence. It's happening now. And our job would be then to have a reversal of that. The king did not undo Haman's decree. He released another decree. And that decree was for the people of God to be able to protect themselves from their targeting and annihilation by a hostile regime. That's the moment we're in. It's the Billy Graham prophecy. It's the shifting of time. Where's Donald Trump, our great defender? Well, guess what? I don't think that I don't want to go there because people get mad at me. I'm going to tell you, I got people commenting on stuff. It's like stolen the prophets. People didn't like it when I said Donald Trump would be president. You guys, everybody loves it now. Nobody loved it when I said it. You understand that? Everybody, they hated it. It was like, well, why would you have that? We had Christian leaders taking full page ads out arguing that he was the worst of sinners, let alone a standard bearer. How wrong they were. But then gradually, as Trump became popular, prophets jumped on board. Before you know it, every prophet was an authority on Donald Trump. I'll tell you something. I learned this, I think, from Kim Clement. And I didn't get this out clearly. Prophets have spheres they are assigned to. You aren't a prophet for the world. You aren't a prophet there are congregational prophets. There are prophets for a region. There are even fewer prophets for a nation, and fewer yet that are prophets for other nations. And you have to know what your measure of rule is. Not everybody's a prophet in political matters. And you can stretch your gift in there. You're going to find out very quickly that if you're not, it's like Kanye West running for president. How long did that last? Kanye in the Arts Mountain, king of the hill. Kanye running for president, not president. So here's the deal. Very few prophets are in the government mount. It takes a certain kind of calling to go there. Like, I know guys that are in Hollywood. They're prophesying over actors and actresses, and they're out there. Well, that's not my call, but they got that call. And if they go over into government, and like Sean Boltz is brilliant. He's out there in Hollywood. He says government is not where I'm called. He's smart because he knows government isn't where he's called, but he is called to be an ambassador to the celebrities in that powerful influence center of entertainment, that mountain. So what I'm saying is we have to kind of come back. And people don't want to hear me because they want to go chase, the promise of the hope of the second coming of Trump. It isn't about that now. And so I'm going to update you on exactly what I've been saying and where we are. But the thing that really burns me up is let's get clarity. The Republican Party itself is a problem. And we thought that Donald Trump and the party was on our side. Now we have to kind of come around to the realization they're not. They were on the 6th. The Republican Senate and Congress were supposed to discuss election fraud, and instead they waffled. Why don't you hear what Daryl Scott says?
Those senators that said they would contest the certification of the Electoral College vote, and then they turned around and chickened out. Now, here's the thing I have to say real quick, and that is this. They were going to contest the certification of the Electoral College vote because they said, based upon the evidence that they had examined, that they concluded there was election fraud. So as a result, they were going to contest the Electoral College certification. Then all of a sudden, something happened. I'm going to say like they let Ilhan Omar say, some people did something.
Some people did something.
There was an insurgency at the Capitol, and all of a sudden, we're going to go ahead on. We're not going to contest the election anymore because it was a riot outside. Look, that's like comparing apples to oranges. One doesn't have anything to do
exactly
with the other. They got scared and gave up. Let me tell you something. The fight breaking out outside doesn't have anything to do with voter fraud. Either you believe there was voter fraud or there wasn't, or that you caved in because you didn't have any guts. Real quick.
Any
when
guts.
I arrived in Washington this morning, I fully intended to object to the certification
Kelly
of
Loeffler,
electoral votes.
nauseating.
However, the events that have transpired today have forced
She's
me
reading
to
her
consider
safe script.
that I cannot now, in good conscience, object to the certification of these electors. The violence, the lawlessness, and siege of the halls of Congress are abhorrent and stand as a direct
stop it.
of the American
Stop
democratic
talking.
process. And I think law enforcement.
She totally waffled, totally failed everyone, and walked away with her money.
Of our elections, but they see as an unfair system. Nevertheless, there is no excuse for the events that took place in these
But
chambers
I want to
today,
come back and talk
and
about
I
what
pray
is
that
God
we can never
telling us in
celebrate
all
the
this.
birthday again.
All right. Boo, get out of here, Kelly. And Kelly Loeffler is a friend of mine as well as some of the others that flip, but you're still chickened out, Kelly. And it's not the integrity of the American system that's under question. It's your integrity. Because you said you were going to do something. You turned around and didn't do it. James, give me a take real quick. Marlon, I need a quick one.
Listen to James.
I got to go to the SmackDown of the week right after. Give me a quick one. Give it to me in 20 seconds or less.
Where else would this happen? If I was on trial for murder and then a clown show burst into the courtroom and it's a bunch of ruckus going on, and like, you know what, we're not going to charge, we're not going to finish your hearing, we're just going to let you get away with murder. That's exactly what happened here, because there was a clown show up, in the building. Now we're just going to drop everything. It is feckless. This is quintessential for the Republican Party. They are always feckless when it comes time to fight.
Give me your take in 20 seconds, Marlon.
I love these guys, don't you? A clown show breaks into the courtroom and interrupts the court. And suddenly the judges and all the trial lawyers say, we're not even going to discuss this case. We're going to close it because of the clown show. I mean, and my point is, when that happened on the 6th, we lost the opportunity for the 10 days, the extension of time. We had dual electors because we worked hard at putting pressure on the lazy, feckless, fearful legislators. The legislators were actually feeling the heat. And suddenly we got a couple of courageous senators of Congress. And then when this thing happens, and for all I know, it could have been a planned anarchy. They're finding out now. Whoever did this had the plan before the event. It wasn't Donald Trump that incited it. It was pre-planned and executed while he was still talking. Anyway, after that, the Democrats played this for all it's worth. They got the entire military out there. They never released the National Guard and the military in one city as citizens were pleading. 600 separate incidents for 4 months. Please protect my business. No, but the moment they felt like there was a potential opportunity to make this theater happen, they got the military locking down the city and saying, it's Donald Trump and it's dangerous when 75 million tax-paying, concerned families are now being put on a watch list. Infuriating? You better believe it. But then you got to stop, see? You got to stop. A bunch of people then run right to the prophetic word. Donald Trump's going to be in office. Donald Trump's going to be in office. Donald Trump. And here's what I knew. I knew when Mike Lindell, by the way, I had an opportunity to fly up and be with Mike when he made his presentation to the president. I was in Phoenix, and I would have had to do a red eye. And I wasn't sure I would get in. I was going to be with him, but I just prayed about it and said no, which is probably did make a difference if I was there or not. I'm just telling you, I was right in that window. And when Mike went in and he had that piece of paper there that the creepy Washington Post, window peeper, was out there, looking at that, trying to get Mike Lindell's notes. And I guess he had martial laws and options, some lawyer notes or something like that. And so, oh boy, this is everybody's prophesying, martial law, these are going to do this. And I knew it wasn't going to happen because I know the temperament of the times. I know that in order for the Donald to do what he had to do, because this was obviously has evidence of fraud. But if you don't have the Senate behind, if you don't have the Supreme Court behind, if you have waffling legislators, and then you have an incident that evidently was pre-planned, that is sabotaging. I mean, we got to stand with Mike Lindell. It's another subject because he's the only hope we have of election reform based on data that can be put out there challenging the software. Now, he's the one guy, so we got to continue to cover him in prayer. But for those of you that are still prophesying about the Trump presidency and you that are listening to the weird posts that are about that the military is Trump is setting a trap and that this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And you got to recognize you're getting played by people. And the Bible calls it tossed to and fro because of the cunning of others. Stop letting the devil mess with your heart, your head, and your hope. I'll tell you what happened for me because people are mad at me. Let me read you what I got here. I blocked out the name. I'm not, listen, these are friends of mine. Actually, I've heard all his midnight rants when this is about me, when he would read from his book. He declared time and again there was cheating, fraud, and manipulation. I'm declaring it right now. And he would tell us he was doubting, and then read scripture and tell us to pray. Yeah, I was struggling. Suddenly he is calling people out and condemning them for the very stand they took a month ago. He hadn't called this right because he's been waffling over a month. No, I wasn't waffling. I was sensing something ain't right. Now he's angry and critical. I was never one who had the faith Trump would serve more years. I wanted to believe it, but I did not have the heart conviction like some, but I would never try to diminish a person's faith just because they did not share my vision. So I have to answer that because I want to make sure that I'm being clear. I'm going to give you guys a verse that has really helped me through. Listen, man, I get the death threats. I get the limo burned. I get the articles in the Washington Post on me. Trust me. I'm out there. And I'll get more because there's fewer of us now because a lot of people are afraid to stand for the truth. But I'm still standing with Donald Trump and the next chapter. But I'm saying, God, what are you trying to tell us? Because we're all needing to humble ourselves. We're all needing to seek his face. We're all needing to turn from our wicked ways. It's on the church. It's on us what's happening in America. There's enough of us to make a difference, so it's on us. So here's what I want you to see. I was sitting there reading, asking the Lord, what's going on? Remember when David had Bathsheba and she got pregnant? And so when the baby got sick, David besought the Lord. He got this girl Bathsheba pregnant. He besought the Lord for the child, and David fasted because the child was very sick. Now watch this. And David prayed and fasted. This is what the Lord led me to help me understand. This is 2 Samuel chapter 12. So I'm praying, God, what's happened? I can't take Trump's picture down out of my office. I got to keep laying hands on him every day. I love the man. And the elders of the house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth. But he would not, neither did he eat bread. He was fasting. And he went in, he laid on the floor all night on the earth. He wouldn't eat. And it came to pass on the 7th day the child died. After the battle, the child died. The servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake to him, and he would not even hearken unto our voice. I wouldn't listen to anybody say this Donald Trump wouldn't be his second term, because I know how bad it will be without him. How will he then vex himself? How will he upset himself? How will he handle if we tell him the child's dead? But when David saw that his servants whispered, he perceived the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, The child dead? And they said, He's dead. Then David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel, came into the house of the Lord and worshiped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. Then said his servants unto him, What thing is this that thou hast done? You did fast and weep for the child while it was alive, but when the child's dead, you rise up and eat bread. And he said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept. I said, Who can tell whether God will be gracious to America? And that Donald Trump will live and get it. And that second term, I told you it'd be mercy. We prayed for mercy. We didn't deserve it. But now he's dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? Can I put him in office? I'll go to him. He'll not return to me. And then David comforted Bathsheba's wife, and he went into her and lay with her. She bare a son and called his name Solomon, and the Lord loved him. Let me tell you something. Right now, we need to seek the face of the Lord and to say, Lord, certainly in the prophetic community, those people that went further than God showed them and prophesied that second term and are still holding on to it. That's difficult space. For me, I could only go up to Donald Trump as God's will for America if America gets mercy. And that's why I wrote and prayed and fasted and warred. And that's why every day I believed we could do it, we could do it, we could do it. And then I was up in January 6th in Washington, and I saw that the door slam, and I saw these senators in Congress back up, and I saw the evidence isn't going to be debated. Then I had to have this heartbreaking realization. Could it be that the Lord has made a decision, and we can't make him change what he's doing? He has a window that was open, and somehow I'm just telling you this, you guys get all mad at me. We have to own the fact that there is a discipline coming on America, but I do not believe it is a discipline in the form of judgment. I believe it is a discipline for the church, and I believe it's a discipline on America. And I believe right now we're separating the men from the boys and the adults from the children, because we have to humble ourselves. And after the church gets over its hissy fit with the prophets are going to go up another level. They have to, because we need them. And I think we're going to start to move together, because if we don't come together, this is what I came back to. What I said in the book that made it clear to me is the fact that we were experiencing. What I said was, there's steps to the chaos. And what we're having now is the stalled Reformation. The stalled Reformation. That there's a point at which, there's my limo back there. I said there's a new religion, and it's not going to tolerate us. It's the religion of Marxism. That we're going to have this hijack take place. And they're going to try to convict us of blasphemy. There's a new sacred, and we are not it. We're actually going to be the ones that are being inspected now. Christians. But what I want you to catch is this, that there is, in the midst of all of this, this prophecy of what I believe the Billy Graham prophecy is all about. That the Lord himself is going to be, is giving us a Feast of Purim experience. And that Feast of Purim experience is for our sake. These guys that are speaking over here, they are like they're speaking the absolute truth. There has been a letdown that has happened, but it's been our own politicians have failed us. They have failed us in a deep and a profound way. We have a stalled reformation. That's the point at which we in America must confront our stalled reformation. When we hit the wall like we are now. What does that mean? God wants a house, and the house has not yet been given to him. Regarding Haman and regarding Esther, when that decree went forth, that Billy Graham prophecy I'm talking about, that happened during the Feast of Purim, they needed an unprecedented unity. Nothing less would enable them to escape the extermination campaign organized against them. We have not acquired that level of clarity yet. I wrote this before the election, and I was praying that the election with Trump would produce that level of clarity. I was praying that we would be able to prevail, but now I have to stop and say, the reformation God wanted, the house he wanted built. Remember, this whole thing is about, did we give God the house he wanted? Are we giving him the house we wanted? And I'll tell you why it's important. It ain't over yet. Donald Trump's not over yet. We have 2022. I said all along, now's the time that we have to take seriously reformation. We can't just go send, Superman in there to go fight for us. We actually have to now understand what the Lord is saying. He could have intervened. He could have intervened. He could have intervened. But the issue is, if my people who are called by my name, and I believe Rick Joyner's right. He said the Lord appeared to him and said, they're praying, but they're not praying for the kingdom to come. They're praying for something temporary, an election result. And fewer yet are humbling themselves. We're not humbling ourselves, because how can you be barking and fighting and mad and angry and depressed if you're humble? If you're humble, you're broken. You're able to be moved by the Spirit. Humble himself and seek my face. We haven't been seeking God's face as much as we're seeking God's intervention for an election. And then turning from wicked ways. Honestly, if we're seeking, we're turning. How many of us are turning? If you haven't repented of something in the last 90 days, something serious, so that you can see his face clearer, maybe you and I need to go seek his face to find out what the wicked way is that's in us. Because the wicked way that God dealt with before is everyone was seeking what was in their own interests and not what was in God's interest, which was God's house. Come on, how many of you are not in relationship with a local church, not in relationship with a single pastor? You don't even go. You don't even kick the tires. You don't even check it out. You got your own little thing going on, and then you call it an ecclesia. No, you're not an ecclesia or an ecclesia, because you got a prayer group. Where are you? Where are you connected to an apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, teacher? Where locally are you plugged in so you could be physically together? I mean, forget this virtual reality fellowship that churches are willing to compromise on with COVID. You're supposed to be physically in proximity to each other. Neglect not the assembling of yourselves together. I think the house of God is going to have to come up to another level, because there you can hear it already and what their agenda is. They want to make you the terrorists. You understand how goofy this is getting? And then where's your firewall? Your senators and your Republicans? Where are they? Where are they? And the Congress? Tell you what, the time for the midterms is now. What Donald Trump is going to do next will be a wrecking ball to that political compromise. There may even be a third party forming. There may even be a third party. You don't wait for 2 years from now. You're going to have to get up, and we're going to have to humble ourselves and say, Lord, we've stalled in the window of grace you gave us. You're going to watch. I want you to see this. We had the Senate and the Congress and the executive branch. We had all three when Trump went into office. Now you're going to look at what Democrats do when they've got all three bases. How they're going to drive in home run after home run, base it. They're going to take it. We had it, and we didn't do anything with it. Matter of fact, they control the agenda and started impeachment right away with Russia. We never called out these damnable, demonic New York Times and CNN. They orchestrated, like I said, the false prophets. And we just let them get away with it and continue. We never rose up. We didn't go to Washington until 40 days before the end. We should have been there 40 days after he got in office and started unifying then and putting the squeeze. We got 70 million evangelicals and pro-life Catholics. We have enough to make up the entire Republican Party. Our leaders don't lead because they don't want to get involved with politics. They don't want to get their hands dirty any more than the congressmen and the senators want to. If you want a future, this is the only path we can go on. We have to seek the great awakening. We have to search to see the condition of God's blessing. And we've got to preserve in the midst of discipline, in the midst of, listen, everything these guys do isn't going to work, because what are they doing? They want illegal citizens up to 11 to 25 million suddenly legalized. What's that going to do? All of them getting government funding. What's it going to do with a $30 trillion debt? And then they want to tear down the wall and open it up. They want to get involved with the Paris Peace Accords, which China won't do and India won't do. So American business is going to be struck. They already shut down the Keystone Pipeline this week. There goes the entire energy independence Trump gave. Trust me, there's going to be enough problems and enough pain so that the Trump tsunami that took place in Congress and in the legislature and the Senate in his election, and I believe was stolen in his reelection, but the way that he created, the American people did not vote for the far left agenda Biden is hostage to and Kamala Harris will execute with fury. Therefore, you can't just say, well, what about the prophets? Prophets are not the issue right now. And if they're going to have to come to their own realization about the reality check of what's happening. You know, sometimes if you've ever been pastor long enough, you got somebody you're praying for that should not die. Everybody's fasting and praying. It's someone in the church should not die. And then the pastor has that miserable day when they got to explain and rationale and comfort everybody. And there's always some people that leave the church because so-and-so didn't get healed. And worse yet, if a prophet prophesied they would and they didn't get healed. Well, guess what? Your faith isn't supposed to be in the prophecy. And so what? If the prophet said he'd get reelected, he saw the populace vote, he saw him winning, and then he assumed he was going to get reelected with that. And if it doesn't happen, what does that mean? Well, that causes a great falling away of people. No, it doesn't. And if it does, get used to the fact that you're not supposed to be led by prophecy. Prophecy is supposed to be a confirmation. You don't get married on the basis of a prophecy. And the prophets are coming up another level. They have to. They have no choice. Now watch this. But this is what people are saying. So I'm not changing what I'm saying. I'm telling you exactly what I said. We have a stalled reformation, and we didn't unstall it. I'm not going to try to be harsh, Lance, but when that video after videos here in the past, let's rally, etc., how can you expect people not to get wrapped up in it? But now we're going to say our focus was in the wrong place. No, your focus was in the wrong place. While the child was yet in question, David did what he had to do. He got before God. He wept. He fasted. While there was a hope that God was going to give us an extension of grace. But when the child was dead, he knew what he had to do. He washed himself, and then he worshiped. He got on his feet and said, Father, what are you saying to us? So I'm not changing. I was there up until I stopped. I'm stopping you from going over a cliff now. We got to deal with reality. People are responsible for discerning the truth too and asking God for themselves. But it's not fair to go back now and say it was all our fault. I'm not saying it's your fault. I love and respect you. I see your side too. I'm not yelling false prophet or nothing like that. I respect you want to believe. You want to believe the latest prophecy, and I am not going to say anything oppositional to the prophecy because I wanted nothing but to see myself surrounded by people like that when I was in warfare, because I needed their faith so that I could stay in. And I didn't really feel like the verdict was in until, like the child, until the outcome's done. Then you realize, all right, now I got to go back. I got to go back and look at this whole thing. I wrote about God wants his house. Haggai is all about, the prophet said, nothing you're doing is working until you give me what I want. Stop building your ministry, your business, your destiny. When I want a house, give me what I want, and I'll bless you. I think we have to have that conversation. You know, one of the nice things about this is that we've had Zoom calls and people that hardly ever talk to each other are on prayer calls every week. Leaders are talking to each other. The unity's forced it. I'll tell you what, it's honest now. We're going to have to do it now. So I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming any of you. I'm saying that while the child was alive, we had to fight. Now we have to stop and say, what's the Lord saying? The Lord is saying that we haven't yet attained to the place where we can prevail over the gates of hell for the destiny of this nation. I knew something weird was up when Black Lives Matter laid siege to Trump Towers and wrote BLM on the road, and the mayor left it there. Didn't treat it as graffiti, but treated it as the Democratic Party. And I thought about Nebuchadnezzar laying siege to Jerusalem. Then when I saw Black Lives Matter Plaza go written down in big letters, and it stays there in siege against the White House. And then I looked at that, and then I saw the stabbings in Black Lives Plaza, and then I saw the harassment of all the Republicans coming out of their convention, and then I watched the burning and the statues coming down, and then I saw on the 6th, I saw nothing approximating that level of sustained rage and anger and destruction. I saw the flash thing happen, and right then, on the 6th, it's treated like the insurrection, and I said they laid siege. It's like Antifa still going on in New York, in Portland, and Joe Biden says it doesn't exist. It's a concept. Well, 100 of them were arrested 4 years ago at an inauguration, and you don't think they were anywhere at all in D.C.? I got evangelists that were out there ministering to them. He said, where's the rest of you? They were in meetings. So I'm just going to tell you this. God did not give us the victory we sought. And I think because we have to meet the condition for that victory. And it's not over yet. It's still not over yet. But we may have now we're seeing how corrupt and how weak this system is, how dark, and how the force we're up against is over that Washington group, so that the two senators that we got, Cruz and Hawley, they're like, they're having to stand in the fire. And then what's his name? Hawley has his book canceled. Then Mike Lindell, he has Bed Bath and Beyond or whatever. He has Kohl's. He has all these stores because the left will mobilize to destroy you. Here's a guy who's a former addict, a Christian, simply wanting voter integrity, loving God, putting a book out there, and they're trying to destroy a business that employs 2,500 people. If it doesn't bother you, you don't realize why we have to come together as one. For the sake of our children, God hasn't given up on this country, but it's time that we had a prophetic roundtable on what is God actually saying. I want someone to disprove my thesis that Donald Trump was a Cyrus and that the window of 4 years of grace was for God to give us a reformation, and we didn't do it, the Republicans didn't do it. Now you're looking at a reformation when the left does it with a false religion. And that's exactly what's happening. And Christians are all going to sit there, and if the only strategy you've got is to wait for a prophet to be vindicated, well, your goal isn't to wait for the prophet to be vindicated. Your goal is to discern what the Father's doing, and don't shoot the prophets. I believe they were right more than they were wrong. They came to the wrong conclusion, but they were right in terms of Donald Trump being, the existential barrier to the destruction of America coming at us, that there was a cosmic conflict of good and evil, and that he was representing the will of God, and that he will be. Well, there was decrees going on. The Washington Post lied about me and tries to make me sound like I'm prophesying. Took a prayer decree and says I was saying this is going to happen. A prayer decree that this election fraud will be overturned. That part I believe. I believe it will be exposed. I believe that it isn't going to go away. There's enough. Time doesn't work to the benefit of a crime. All the unredacted stuff Trump just gave us, 1.5 foot of stuff on Russia, it ain't going to help these guys. Time's going to expose. Someone's going to keep going through that stuff and saying, look at this, look at this. There's just no stomach in the media to expose their own sins. So here's where we're at right now. I want you to hear this. We are in that critical moment when it's kind of like phases of dealing with, loss, where there's that kind of like anger, and then there's that bargaining. And then I'm telling you, don't go with the Q posts that are regurgitated by somebody about Trump's secret plan. I'm telling you, the boss's plan is to take time off, and there will be the wrecking ball is going to have its effect. He knows it was stolen. He knows the thing is stolen, but he was shocked to see the Supreme Court, the Senate. He was shocked to see to what extent the Republican Party and the conservatives he helped wouldn't fight for America. They just want to get back to the old. They don't represent the populist movement. We have a movement, 75 million. The only way these guys can intimidate and succeed in silencing us and going after us and causing Christians to turn on one another is if we let fear get into us. It's now not Trump's turn. Now we get to find out what those policies the Democrats have actually look like. And now America's going to go, hey, I didn't go for that. And now it's time for a real awakening. But it starts with the humbling. It starts with the genuine seeking of God's face. It starts with the relationships that we have. And then it really starts locally. And locally means that we've got to actually get involved with the locals. I don't want to lose people now, but I'm going to tell you, the strategy's there. The strategy is right there. And but I don't want to go into it now because I don't really think that people start to bail out on this length of a conversation anyway. But there is, I'm going to cover it tomorrow when I'm doing the firewall episode, and I'll give that to you. But the strategy is really for the local offices and for the environment around you to be moved into. I'm just going to give you something real quick here. Bear with me. It's from David Horowitz, and Horowitz says the 2022 primaries should begin today. It has nothing to do with Trump impeachment or what happened at the Capitol last week. The problem has been festering for years. How many Republicans are giving voice to your concerns at a federal or state level? I personally long believe the Republican Party is irremediably broken. We needed a new party decades ago, with the exception of a random smattering of patriots here and there. Contrast that to Democrats, where every member is a pedal-to-the-metal leftist willing to fight for the cause in word and action. And he goes on to list. He says, I've been doing that for years. Those fights have been awfully lonely. The primary seasons begin now. Every conservative with a megaphone and a pen and a wallet should be focusing on electing state officials. Now, I'm going to say the awakening and this action, a new form of action, and we've got to own our country now. We need to be looking for sanctuary, where states are going to be sanctuaries for our values and liberties are in red states, in addition to those who will fight at the federal level. We got to go local, folks. You got to go local. You got to put the boundary up in the anointing on your territory. You guys, please share this. Incumbent Republicans, these are the cats we got to look at, because these are the ones that didn't stand, and they're all vulnerable. Brian Kemp, gotta go. Ron DeSantis, gotta keep him. These are what? The governors that are running. We got to go over this. We got to get our list going. Who stays, who goes? And then we got to take a look at potentially vulnerable Democrats. And they got a bunch of them. Where can we run some? Where can the Patriots cut in? Tom Wolf, what a dork job. Got to get rid of him. I grew up in Pennsylvania. What a pain he is. Tom Waltz can be replaced. Start with a list of incumbent Republicans seeking re-election. Ask yourself, how many of them deserve to be renominated? How many of them are actively fighting corona fascism? Corona fascism! How many of them are downright implementing it with as much enthusiasm as the left? Now's the time. Don't quit. Don't give up. Patriots have the opportunity to flip at least 10 governorships. Now, let's take a look at the GOP senators. This is the key. These senators, I love Rand Paul. God bless him. I love John Kennedy. We're going to have to go down this list because we don't want to flip all these. But that Pat Toomey, he's retiring. We got to get a Looney Toomey out of there. So what I'm saying is we got to really take a look at this. I know that you don't want to go into this, but this is the battle we're in. Awakening and the battle in 2022. That's it. It's the only window we have to hold together what the devil is damaging and laid siege to. We got 20 Republicans up for re-election in states that should be winnable. Now, watch this. Multiply this dynamic at the level of a local, where there are numerous Republican school board members, county commissioners, state legislators who are working for the other side. We are the majority opinion among Republicans, yet we are a tiny minority of elected Republicans. This has disenfranchised red America because there's ostensibly one oligarchy in power and simply goes by two different names. Republican and Democrat are both selling you out. And you know, we're not sophisticated. I know that. That's why most of us are still hanging on to prophets' prayers. Because it's like, well, what are the prophets? We're going to have to become better, smarter, and more engaged at a bigger level. And then I believe the prophets, one thing the prophets got to do is stop prophesying on their own. If you're not called to the government realm, get along with a couple of other prophets. You know, the Bible says when a prophet speaks over a person, let alone a nation, let one and at most two prophets speak and let the other one judge. How many prophets have prophets judging what they're saying? That's part of the Reformation. How many prophets think that they're prophets to nations when they're not? They're out of their metron. And it can happen. And you know, if you got a sphere, you got a sphere. If you got a house, you got a house. You got a region. You should know what the sphere is, because if you get out of your sphere, then you're into prophecy that God doesn't have to vindicate. And then what happens? Prophets hear prophets, and they start prophesying something similar. I'm telling you, nobody was out there when Trump started. Very few, very, very few. Ironically, Kat Kerr was out there on the first election. I ran into her in the Cosmos. Jeremiah Johnson, he was early on Trump. And then at the very end, I found out that Chuck Pierce had something about Trump being a Trump card, got him a Trump card. But I'm telling you, man, when it was the primary season and Ted Cruz was running and Marco Rubio, I made a mistake last night. 2 nights ago, I said that nobody wanted Donald Trump when he was running against Ted Cruz, Mike Huckabee, and Mario Murillo. I said Mario Murillo. I meant to say Marco Rubio. But anyway, God help me. But nobody wanted Trump in the primaries. I was alone. When I was talking Trump derangement, nobody got it. And then it came out later, and nobody believed I came up with it first. Doesn't matter. The reality is, I would love to not be in the government realm. I would really love to not be in there. And so I'm happy with that. But 2 years ago, I said Kamala Harris. I even put it on Facebook. I said, there's the president I don't want to see in office. Everybody thought I was crazy. She couldn't even get on the primaries. They got rid of her. When she got put in as VP, oh, brother, everybody's talking about Biden. Forget about Biden. He's not your biggest problem. Pray for long life on him, as mad as you are. I mean, they need to get damaged with the Hunter Biden laptop, but just damaged. And so that their credibility plus their bad policies give us a midterm victory. But you don't want to shift from him to her, because the whole romance with the media and the naivety and gullibility of the entertainment crowd, and then the average American who doesn't get it, it'll be just, let's just say, I put that out there, and I don't want to see it go to that level. And thank you, Jesus. World Economic Forum is going to be meeting. They're going to do a global reset. It's in the book. They're looking for the economic reset. These Democrat policies bankrupt America. We're going to have a dollar reset. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see those dollars coming back. That is the global currency, because when it all comes back, the vengeance of all the world against America will be our hyper inflation like Zimbabwe or Venezuela. And I'm telling you, we don't have to go down like that. Remember the Apostle Paul. God reversed that storm midway and gave him everyone sailing with him. So if we see it now, if we could start to talk about this stuff that's already been written that we talked about before, now we know that Donald Trump's got to come back to a church that is willing to do its job and not put it all on him. That's the big lesson here. We got to be ready to do our job. Would you share this with other people? I'm getting a whole lot of suppression from Facebook these days. And a whole lot of people don't like what I'm saying, so they're not sharing it. And I know it's unpopular what I'm doing right now. But trust me, in a week or two, just remember, this is what I was saying, because we're going to come back around to it. And it's going to be, what do we do now? I want to meet with the president. I want to meet with him when nobody's spying on me with a telephoto lens like the jerk up there and who's working for the Washington Post with a telephoto lens trying to embarrass Mike Lindell. I like to be able to get down there with some leaders and talk about what's the future, because we need the populist movement to have a leader. And the left wants to make Trump radioactive. They want to make it so that nobody wants to touch him. And then everybody who's a Christian and who's a MAGA supporter and who's a patriot is a white evangelical heterosexual supremacist. And that's going to backfire because they're not being smart. They're doing 75 million at a time, and they're the minority. Remember this. These radical leftists that are in charge of the tops of the mountains, they're in the minority. The cats that are up there in the top of media, they have a big megaphone, but they don't have a big group. And the same thing with academia, and the same thing with the Democrats up on the Hill. There are not that many. That's why there was a sweeping victory for Trump in every category of government, except the one which would have put him in office, because they wouldn't let that happen. But the country did not give a mandate to put 20 million illegals on the payroll, and to open up the borders, and to cut off union jobs with a pipeline, and to enter into the Paris Accords and kill industry, and to undo Trump's tax cuts, and to start distributing more money to the people. Country did, and we got to get our voices out there saying, are you tired of losing? There's a great hashtag. Are you tired of losing? Because Trump did say, you'll get tired of winning. Well, we had winning with him. We had peace in the Middle East. Watch what comes next. Watch all this stuff that comes up. He didn't have a problem with Islam. Trump did a great job. Now watch how they screw that up. Are you tired of losing? I'm telling you, the country's about to have a wake-up call, but we can't gloat, and we can't be wicked, and we can't be angry, and we can't be, told you so. We have to actually get our act together, because we own this. The nation's on our shoulders. If my people, who are called by my name, and we're not like some small minority, we're a big enough chunk of America, so we should actually have been moving this country like the left has moved it. The left has beaten us constantly because they've just been more courageous, ferocious, determined, invested, organized. Well, because this is their only heaven. We look at the age to come, so we're half lolly-law, and to them, this is thy kingdom come. They're here to make the kingdom manifest. That's why they're zealots. Unfortunately, it's a kingdom without Jesus. That's why it's anti-Christian. All right, I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. Would you please share this with your friends if you have the courage to do so? If nothing else, let me have your comments. Give me your comments. I'm not mad at you, and I'm not changing what I did. I'm giving you the next level of update. As long as there was hope, as long as the child was alive, I was there, fasting, praying, freezing cold, money out of my pocket, going up there. In some cases, at risk, having to have security, worried about my own safety. So don't be telling me that I'm not with this thing. I'm 100% invested, and still am. It's a shorter list with my people like me on it now, because most of them are backing up and being politically correct. I'm not. And we need to be bold. We need to be courageous. But at this point, we need to stop and do an assessment, a critical analysis. What is the Lord saying? And we have to have the humility to hear. And I believe what we're going to hear is, humble yourself. Seek my face. What does my kingdom look like? Are you giving me the house that I want? Come together in unity so that I can have a house of power. I want to fill you with glory. I want to fill my house with glory. I want to make you so that even if there's an economic downturn, there's going to be provision in the house of the Lord. I want you connected. I don't want despair. I don't want weakness. I want, like Paul, in the middle of a storm, as everything's flying loose, you press in till the angel of the Lord comes through and says, now the country is moving with you. It's going to be a little longer because I think we have to grow up into the place that God wants us. And then what he wants for America, what he wants